Hey, it's AJZulu here, and welcome to this analysis of Sylas, the new champion coming into League of Legends, and he is definitely a hot one. I must apologize ahead of hand that this might be a little bit longer video. There's a lot of things I would like to touch on. We're going to be talking about his skills, the comparison between the Dota 2 Rubick and how these two, even though they have the same, that these two might have the same concepts of stealing spells, they play very differently. Their play mechanics are still quite different and unique, each to their own. And with different criticisms between the previous heroes such as Zoe and Nico, where Riot might be recycling the same ideas, which is a very simple way to say it, but it's a little bit more complex than that, and I would like to just try to touch on it. So there's a lot of things to get through, but first we would need to talk about his skills first. I won't really want to get into his lore, that would even take too long, so I would like to just talk about the mechanics in of itself. So first, his passive. Now again, very similar to Zoe actually, where every time he casts a spell, he gets a special auto attack, but this time it's in an AoE. What's interesting about the way that he's made also is that his main weapons are chains, and he's still a melee hero, not actual ranged with chains, but just still melee. And this really gives the God of War Kratos type of weapon feeling to it. And as we can see with some of the animations, he really throws the chains around like Kratos, and I think it's really cool. So let's move on and look at the passive here of how it deals base damage, and then it has an AD and AP ratio, while Zoe again only has AP ratios and quite a high amount of it. And so it's similar, yet not so much. And a lot of people again would just say it's the same, but then not really. Same, but different. Like all games, there's similarities, but then there's differences. Let's just move on. Next one, Chain Lash. I really like how you're able to just hit and aim both. Technically, you're able to supposedly have these two go across both sides. I'm just going to be waiting for these highlights showing like somebody just using one's ability, hitting two enemies on each side and then getting a kill on both of them. It's bound to happen. I'm gonna be looking forward to it. What's interesting about it is that the damage isn't enough, but it also gives a slow, which might be giving the ability too much power already. Because in the next two abilities, Sylas is going to already have quite a bit of mobility to catch up to his enemies, and also a small dash to run away. So having a slow is might be overwhelming his kit a bit. But here we have magic damage, a bit of AP, a slow percentage scale, and then minion damage a little bit less, and a lesser AP ratio, so he doesn't one-shot as easily in the early stages of the game. But with Luden's Echo, or whatever other item people will find to be the most effective, will be good enough to just clear the caster minions after one item, I suspect. But moving on from that, his next ability is a dash. Small dash, and a lot of people like to compare to Ilaoi's W, I believe, where she also dash and does amount of damage to the target. And the interesting thing here is that it doesn't only do damage, but then it gives a heal. Now, why does it give a heal? I'm not entirely sure. A lot of people have paused and shared their skepticism of it. That it might be a little bit too strong. We've seen few videos of like Red Mercy with the Gunblade and this additional like magic heal on top of it, healing you by quite a lot. The only explanation maybe is that he's going to be fairly squishy while Ilaoi is already tanky and has heals through her other passive abilities that for a champion like Sylas here is going to be squishy. He's going to need some heals, and it might look epic gameplay wise to see him low HP and then all of a sudden get a massive heal just in time before dying. At the same time, he also does some extra magic damage if the enemy is low. I won't comment much, but it is what it is. Now E here also has two things going on for it, and that's the common theme with Sylas. All his spells have two layers to it. It does one thing, but then it has a second layer to it. So here he has a dash, and then he hooks in to his enemies, and this is a skill shot, which it should be. And so he dashes a little bit, can dash in between the minions, and then hook himself to the enemy to get closer, possibly to use W and Q, whatever combo it might be. Now to compare again with Aatrox's dash, which still looks a little bit pathetic for such a grandiose type champion, Aatrox apparently gets a bunch of AD whenever he dashes. So during a fight, even though you might not need to use it or taking objectives, you would want to use the dash. You get that extra AD, but also you get a little bit of auto cancellation. While here, when you get a dash, you get a shield, and then you do some more magic damage and stunning your target with the chain pull. Now the ultimate, what everyone is talking about here, where he hijacks enemy's ultimate, and this is a point and click ability, not a skill shot, and for a period of time he's able to cast it once. I saw a video where he was using Udyr's ulti, which is considered as a weak ultimate based on the voice lines. I don't know which other champions are considered as weak as of late, but he's able to cast Udyr's ultimate twice. But in any case, let's look at it. Starts at 85 cooldown, quite high, but it gets really low, 15 seconds. Plus, we must acknowledge that League of Legends is going to have a lot of CDR, so you get 40% CDR, and then you get the runes of CDR with Ultimate Hunter giving you plus 15, and then Presence of Mind giving you plus, I think it's 10 with every kill. So when you're max level 15% with 40% cooldown, it's down to 9, and then with the rune, it becomes 7.6. Then if you kill someone, which assumingly you're gonna kill someone using this ultimate, it becomes 6.8. And in which case, we can start to see how this ultimate might be used multiple times within one team fight. And he will stay alive with his W ability very well, and he gets a shield too, so it might be very difficult to kill overall. Now, there is a caveat to all of this, where he's not able to steal the same ultimate based on like the cooldown of the enemy's ultimate ability as well. So he might have to wait for a bit of time, or might be forced to use another person's ultimate, which he might not want. Now that we have gone through all of his abilities, let's now go to Rubick. But first off, Sylas is going to be a mid lane carry, but Rubick is a full support. At least that is his initial design. With his changes over the years, and especially with his passive right here, he is more open now to be a core, possibly in the mid lane. Because his passive here, whatever spells he steals, and his own spells too, the spell is amplified by 14 to 26%. So he's gonna do more damage with the spells he have stolen from the enemy and his own spells, which he only has one damaging spell right here, will be amplified as well. And the debuff duration amplification is basically like Ornn's passive, where he can increase the stun duration of any CC ability. So it starts at 20% up to 44%. So any stun like 2 seconds, then it will increase by 44%. It's very strong, but still strong in the support position as well. The only difference between support and core at this point is the core Rubick would get more items that might give him a larger mana pool. He's able to cast more spells. He might be more mobile. He's just casting much more compared to a support. But now we see his signature spell, Spell Steal. So in this case, Rubick can steal any spell. But the caveat here as well is that he needs to wait. He needs good timing and wait for the enemy to cast the spell that he wants, and then he steals it. While Sylas here, he can just press on anybody. Press on anyone he wants, and he'll get their ultimate regardless if they have cast it or not. And this is like now the new path, separating the two, where here he's proactive. He goes in, he steals, and supposedly will use the ultimate before they could use it on him. Now Rubick here, and this is a different version as well. The enemy team knows that Rubick is around, so those with big AoE, CC spells, team fighting spells, they will need to be careful. They might want to stun him first. So while Rubick is stunned, they can cast their first, second, third ability, so that now they have cycled to the next one. So when Rubick steals, he's not getting that big ultimate. One of the better spells that he is able to steal are those that need to use channeling spells. Since the enemy are channeling their ultimates or abilities, they cannot cast any other spell during that channel, otherwise it will stop it. In that case, Rubick is just free to steal it from them, such as an Enigma Black Hole. Now going into his ability, Stolen Spell Cast Time 0.15. This is also important because whatever spell he's stealing, there is a projectile speed to it, where it goes from the enemy hero to him, in which case I believe the enemy might have a small amount of time to cast another spell to prevent him from stealing the one that he has clicked on, but I can't be too sure on that at this point. His catch range is also much longer, starting at 1000. His talent tree allows him to increase the range, while his Aghanim Scepter, an item that buffs the hero's abilities in many certain ways. In this case, it allows him to get even longer range and also reduce his cooldown down to 2 seconds, which is very powerful. This would be like an item for a core Rubick, not a support type Rubick. And his usual cooldown would be 20, 18, and 16. So much lower in the early stages of the game, but still not too low in the later stage when it's maxed. And now for gameplay wise, we can see for Sylas here that he, especially in the early stages, might not be able to steal many types of abilities. And within this team fight, let's say, he's only able to steal one ability, and it's also a small 2v2 fight, so we can't really say for sure. I'm only predicting once again that with a full CDR build, maybe he's able to steal more, and then the team fight might be a little bit longer. But the fun thing about Rubick over here is that he's able to, and he needs to steal many spells within a single team fight. Because his cooldown is fairly short, 16 seconds may sound long in League of Legends, but in Dota it's not extremely long, it's about average. And so he might steal one spell, use it once or twice while his ultimate is still on cooldown, want to steal another quickly, and then use it again. And for Rubick, you really need to be good with this ultimate. And as people might critique on Sylas here, that his mechanics are overwhelming or overpowered, I suspect that some people might be able to play this champion with only 3 of his spells, especially in a 1v1 situation, since all of that damage is all pushed down into his 3 spells alone, while the 4th spell, ultimate, is very optional. If it's on cooldown, doesn't matter, I can still 1v1 the enemy if I wanted to, which again is still a prediction, but that's just how I see it. there are quite a few champions as well where their ultimate might not do any damage at all, and so their damage needs to be pushed into their other 3 abilities, or maybe they have a certain passive that lets them scale and increase their damage that way. For example, would be Kindred. Kindred doesn't have any damage in her ultimate. It's a healing ability, prevention of death basically, but then her passive marks gives her more damage, and she still is considered as a carry. Kale is another one, but Kale is a more sustaining, and she still does a lot of damage even though she has a heal and ultimate. Sylas here might be the same. Now, people talked about how he has a lot of animations because he's stealing every other ultimate ability. I need to debunk this in this video because here, as you can see, this is Sylas right now, and that's not Sylas, that is actually Zaya, but Zaya is here. So what Riot has done is that they took all of the other animations, all the ulti animations of all their other champions, and then put a new color code to it. Make them ghost-like, make it a little bit purple, and so that will be the animation of the ultimate. So they don't have to animate Sylas himself to do all of the other ultimates himself. They just take what the animations that they currently have and then put it into Sylas himself. Then if we play a little bit more, here we see Sylas again using the dragon form. That's not him, but then it's the model of the dragon, Aurelian Soul, another Aurelian Soul right here, and then here he's being Malzahar, channeling his spell against the Malzahar. Again, the Jarvan here, and Warwick, Vel'Koz, Lucian, Ashe, but now he's back because he already used the animation. So whatever cast animation ultimate each enemy champion has, Sylas will transform looking like them because Riot did not do the animation. But what about Rubick? Well, Rubick doesn't have like such animation. He just casts a spell, and they only put very little animation for the bigger spells, the more popular spells like Pudge ultimate is a very signature, unique ultimate to Dota 2, so they might like put a little bit of animation for Rubick. But now they have the Arcana Rubick right here. I think it's like goes for $60. I use a different currency. Sorry about that. But this is like the ultimate skins for League of Legends. But in Dota they call it Arcanas, and here they have 150 stolen custom spell effects. And honestly, some of them are just a green coat of paint. Just the same animation with a green coat of paint. So let's just take a look at them a little bit. So here we have Doom. It's just green. This is one of them that's just a green coat of paint with an added replacement effect of square, since it's all about the cube with this Arcana, and it has a deep lore behind it. But things get a little bit more impressive with Ravage here. Instead of tentacles, we have like Minecraft looking, square looking tentacles coming out, which is quite good. And then now we have Black Hole. So as all black holes is usually a circle, here we have the cube, and it's very Minecrafty, Minecraft-esque. A Phoenix Egg, instead of a full-blown yellow sun, we get a green boxy. And to some people they think that's like a little bit lazy or unimaginative. It's kind of subjective. I'm not here to really rate what it is, just report on it. One of the more impressive ones that I think people might like is the meteor that looks like a box and then it turns into a smaller box. This chronosphere, which is supposed to be purple as we can see here, turns green with a little bit of square. Now, if Sylas ever gets an ultimate skin, would Riot do something like this? Maybe. Their previous one with Misfortune, people weren't such a big fan of, and I think if Riot ever like took the time to like make custom abilities and custom animation like this before all of the ultimate abilities, then I think people will be very happy about it. Now we come to the end-ish of the video where People gave like maybe good criticisms and maybe unfair criticism at the same time about how Riot is just repeating the same concept of stealing people's abilities, and they're not exactly wrong. But yeah, it's been a very long time that people were talking about how they need or would like a champion that could steal abilities within the community, and they would like to see something like that. In the previous Beyond the Rift interview, they were talking about how they wanted the invoker type champion or hero in Dota 2 who could cast about 10 spells in total, mix and matching the QWE orbs to make a new spell, so to have 10 spells in total. And it's like always something to try, something to do. In this case, they I think finally have made a champion that can steal spells, and Zoe and Nico might have been just small experiments along the way, but that's on the other hand, maybe not. So for Zoe, she doesn't, to me at least, she doesn't steal spells, she borrows them. But also she's a trickster within her lore, and so any summoner spell or items that people use, Zoe as a trickster would use it against her enemies. And since it's all fun and games, and we can see within her W ability that whenever she casts it, she just thinks that she's having fun. She says playing games with these other mortals, but sadly she keeps killing them, which is in her voice line. Nico, on the other hand, doesn't steal people's appearances, and the gameplay of all of these three champions, even though it's about taking what others have and then use it against them, or using to trick the enemy, they all have like what I think is different gameplays all to their own. So it's a little bit more quicker with the summoner spells and doesn't do maybe as much damage with some of the nerfs, and has a more fun style to it. Nico also with her like cloning and like pretending to be other champions and like tricking the enemy thinking that they're about to kill someone who's low but it's actually Nico. And then now we have Sylas here, who is more the most brutal out of all of them, who just like takes the ultimate spells and then like immediately use it against them as a way of revenge. So I hope this sort of explains a little bit about how all of these, even though they have a similar concept, they still end up giving you a different gameplay, emotion, experience, whatever you want to call it. But if it's the thing about copying, I really don't know what to say. It's each to their own. If they think this is unacceptable, and well, whatever, you know. Sylas is here, and but the last criticism is that his other abilities, like his passive, is like Zoe's chains. It has a slow W, it has a heal, but also an execute and shield. And then this is a dash with another hook. All of these are like things that we see in Riot's design. They sort of, these are the ones that are copying, not his ultimate. His ultimate is unique. And that's the thing with Riot. It just seems that there's one concept that they want to play with. I want someone who steals spells, but then what about their other four abilities? Well, let's just take some of the things that we have always used, a 3-hit passive, a 4-hit passive, or whatnot, something passives, you know. Let's just like fill in the remaining empty space instead of like trying to think of something new, because we just want this one ultimate ability, we want this one concept of stealing spells, but the other ones, let's just fill in the blanks with the past other spells that we have. And I think that's the real criticism here, that Riot maybe should be wary, be careful of, do not do it too many times. Sure, you want to test something new here, but then try to keep the whole skill set new and interesting as well. But that's all I think I have to say about Sylas. Maybe I'll make another video talking about the lore, but for now, there's a guy named TB Sky, and he already made a lore video talking about his gameplay design and talking about why he's, even though in jail and don't get a lot of food, he's still jacked up all of his mind. I would like to talk about that in a future video, but for now, I'll end it here. And let me know in the comments, I suppose, how you like his sort of gameplay or any other comparisons with Rubick and Dota. I love to hear about that kind of stuff. I just think it's interesting. And I hope to see you all next time. Bye for now.